everyone. You are welcome to AEA507 Agricultural Risk Management Module 1, Unit 1, Meaning of Agricultural Risks. I am your course facilitator, Dr. Helenia. Let's look at the introduction. Agricultural risks refer to the uncertainty and potential threats that can affect agricultural production, income, and sustainability. This risk arises from various factors, including environmental conditions such as drought, flood, pest, market fluctuation, policy changes, and technological challenges. Agricultural risk is essentially for farmers, policymakers, and stakeholders to develop strategies that mitigate their impacts and ensure sustainability of agriculture. The concepts and definition of agricultural risks within agricultural sector. We look at agricultural risks to be defined as uncertainty and potential challenges faced within agricultural sector that can impact agricultural activities, production, income, and overall sustainability. These risks are typically associated with the unpredictable nature of agriculture due to external factors. We know that agricultural production is characterized by a lot of factors. This includes environmental factors. This has to do with the immediate environment that one finds himself in. So the immediate environment, when we talked about the immediate environment, is advanced weather conditions like drought, flood, and storms, as well as climatic changes, pests, and diseases can also affect crop yield and livestock production. Economic risks. This has to do with the resources, economic resources that needed to, such as fluctuation in market prices, changes in demand. When there is high demand, in most cases, as far as economics is concerned, there will be increase in the price of that product. And inflation can also influence the financial stability of the farmers and agro-business. This risk causes a lot of problem. Once there is problem, maybe there is disease outbreak or changes in weather that will affect crops or livestock production, then the farmer at the end of it will be at the receiving end, because whatever the harvest they will have will not be as much as it's supposed to be. Then another thing we should consider now is operational risks, the mode of operation. How does the farmer cultivate the crops? What is he using? This challenge relates to farm management, such as equipment failures, labor shortage, or inefficiency practices. All these can hinder productivity. When the farmer do not use the required or technology, even when there is a improved technology, some of them do not want to use it. As such, it will also constitute a risk in agricultural production. Then the next thing we are going to look at is the next thing we will consider is the institutional risks. This has to do with the policy involves. Maybe the government policy. What does a government has to do with agricultural production? The policy, is it favorable to the farmer or it is not favorable to the farmer? This policy includes regulations, trade restriction, changes in government support or subsidies can create uncertainty for agricultural production. Then social risks. This has to do with the environment. The environment that is involved. This can also constitute risks as far as the society is concerned. Society also constitutes risks to agricultural production. So a community dynamics, demographic shifts, or conflicts, when there is war, when there is crisis, it can also result to restriction in agricultural production. And all these play a role in influencing agricultural outcome, that is the output. So all these risks, as a matter of fact, in agriculture, is one of the most vulnerable sectors to unforeseen challenges. So understanding these risks and managing agricultural risks is crucial for ensuring food security, protecting livelihood, and fostering resilience in agricultural economics. Then let's quickly look at the distinction, the different types. Distinctions between various types of agricultural risks. Agricultural risks can be classified or categorized into several types, each with distinct characteristics based on their sources and impacts. So here we have a brief overview of the main types of risks. We have production risks. This has to do with production activities. Production risks has to do with production activities. What the farmer does, what type of production is he undergoing. And this arises from uncertainty in the natural environment, such as unpredictable weather. As said, agricultural production is characterized by a lot of risks. So this includes weather condition, pests, diseases, climatic vulnerability, which directly affects crops and livestock yield. The next thing we are going to look at is let's quickly look at the market risks. Market environment also constitutes risks in our agricultural production. It constitutes risks to the farmers. So this has to links with the fluctuation in prices of agricultural products and inputs. Changes in demand, supply, or global market condition often leads to income instability for farmers. Then the next thing we are going to look at is the financial risks. Financial risks involves the ability to assess and manage financial resources. Financial risk has to do with ability to assess and manage financial resources. Then the next risk is the institutional risk. Institutional risk, like we say, has to do with the policy, government policy, regulation in terms of prices, and so on. This constitutes risks in agriculture. It may be subsidies, government policy subsidies, or trade arrangement, which can affect farming operation and profitability. Then we also have human risks and personal risks. This arises from factors such as illness, accidents, and even the death of the farmer or the laborers. So this can also affect agricultural production negatively. Environmental risks. Environmental risk is another important factors that contributes to decline in agricultural production. This risk is related to environmental degradation, soil erosion, water scarcity, which impacts the sustainability of agricultural production or agricultural practices per se. Then let's look at the context-specific nature of agricultural risks. All right, before then, let's quickly look at, the pictures shows, I showed a pictures that has to do with risks involved in the corn. The corn plant, the corn there is affected by a risk, and then a caterpillar and diseases, and which will now lead to reduction in maize production. So the context-specific nature of agricultural risks. The context-specific nature of agricultural risks emphasize that risks in agriculture are not uniform, but very widely based on specific conditions and circumstances. This condition can include factors such as geographic condition, types of crops or livestock, farming practices, climate patterns, market dynamics, and social environments. Let's take, for example, a farmer in a dry, arid region may face severe risks from drought, while one in a flood-prone area might be more concerned about excessive rainfall. Then the risks associated with pest infestation may differ between crops or regions depending on local pests and ecological conditions. Market-related risks such as price volatility can affect small farmers, small-scale farmers, and as well as this large-scale commercial operation. Then, looking at the significance of agricultural risks from ensuring sustainable agriculture and food security. Then the agricultural risks hold significant importance in pursuit of sustainable agriculture and food security. Managing these risks effectively is critical for ensuring long-term viability of agricultural system and stable access to food for growing population. So here are some key highlights. We have here, look at it here. From here, we look at these pictures here, shows, before the event and after the event, before the risk mitigation strategies. You can see that prevention and mitigation here started, and then recovery, and then the response also. The response is, and then at the end of it, preparation. And by the time the agricultural risk is being, or the risk is being mitigated, you come to realize that farmers will have a bumper harvest. Farmers, the income risk assessment also plays a very important role in the welfare of the farmers, and also certain things like emergency relief also play a very important part also in agricultural production. So looking at this picture, you can see that it goes like this. From here, it goes like this, and then it comes. Then the impact, the impact now, it will create a positive impact if risk is properly managed. But if it's not properly managed, it will result in another problem. So we can see here that impacts on productivity. If risk is well managed, it will create an impact in productivity. That means there will be increase in production, and which will result to increase in output as well as increase in farmers' income, which will also result to better standard of living. Then economic stability. If the risk is properly managed, it will give room to economic stability. So, and then there will be free cash flow, inflow and outflow, once the risk is mitigated. And then the farmers here will be able to have their livelihood will also change. They will have a sustainable way of living. Their living standard will also increase. Then environmental sustainability. If risk is properly managed, then the environment itself too will be okay as well. But if it is not properly managed, there will be crisis in the environment. Then the environment, that's risk mitigation strategies such as adapting climate smart farming practice and preserving natural resources contribute to sustainable agricultural systems that are better equipped, with, and also will be able to withstand future challenges. Then another thing is the food availability. Food availability is also another important factor as far as risk mitigation is concerned. There will be enough food, and as a result, there will be food security, access to food. By the time the risk is mitigated to a barest minimum, this will give room to high productivity, and as such, there will be enough food to sustain the increased population, the high population of the nation. Then we have the interaction of agricultural risks with external factors such as climate changes, economic policies, and global market trends. Then under climate change, we have amplification of risks, pests and disease spreads, uncertainty in productivity. Now, once the climate change, there is bound to be a lot of amplification. That is, climate change exacerbates agricultural risks by increasing the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events such as drought, flood, and so on. Also, pests on its own, pests and disease spread will also cause another problem. That's the warmer temperature and changed ecosystem can lead to a new or intensified pest and disease outbreak. Then coming to uncertainty in productivity, shifts in rainfall pattern and temperature variation may make agricultural planning more uncertain and complicated. This will affect the small-scale farmers more than any other farmers. Then, looking at the economic policy, we look at subsidy and tariffs, inadequate support system, policy inconsistency. All these things result to, when we talked about subsidy and tariff, policies such as subsidies, imports, and export, tariff can influence agricultural variability by affecting input costs and as well as market access. Inadequate support system, that is the absence of effective system or disaster relief program, leave farmers more vulnerable to loss from agricultural risks. And that is why that agriculture is always characterized by a lot of risks and uncertainty. Then policy inconsistency, unpredictable policy changes can destabilize agricultural investment and planning, creating additional risks for farmers and agribusiness. Then looking at the global trends, looking at the global trends we have here: price volatilities, supply chain disruption, global demand shifts. All these things also constitute problem in agricultural production. So when we talked about the global change or global market trends, we talked about the pricing, the price volatilities, and then this also will affect global commodity prices which can lead to income instability for farmers, especially those dependent on export market. And then another one is this supply chain disruption. Events like pandemics or geopolitical tension can interrupt supply chain, causing input shortage or limited market access for agricultural production or produce. Limited market for agricultural produce. Global demand shifts change consumers' preference, such as demand for organic or sustainable products can present both risks and opportunity for agricultural producers. Then we also have to talk about the economic impact. These external factors are interconnected. Example, a climate-related event like drought can disrupt production, leading to price volatility in global market. In turn, inadequate economic policy or safety net market excavates financial impacts on farming. So more of this, managing this intertwined risks now requires holistic approach, integrating climate resilience, sound economic policy, and adaptive strategy aligned with market dynamics. Then let's look at the concepts. This is the concept. Concepts of risks to real-world agricultural scenarios and decision making. Here, the concepts of agricultural risks are vital in understanding how agricultural stakeholders make decisions in real-world scenarios. This is how risks integrate into agricultural decision making. Now, application of these real-world agricultural scenarios this includes crop selection. The farmer here needs to, if he really wants to avert risk, should select crops that are resistant. Should make sure that the crops that are disease resistant is being selected. Investment decision. It depends on the type of investment decision that a farmer makes can affect the farmer positively or negatively. And that is why you should not make decisions or a rash decision that will affect them. So the farmers do not need to rush in making decisions. The type of investment made too can also contribute to agricultural potentials. That is when deciding to invest in new machineries, technologies, or infrastructure, farmers evaluate risks such as financial constraints. What is the farmer's financial constraint? What is the potential returns and the reliability of the equipment to ensure their investment yield benefits? Because if it does, after looking at all these things, if we realize that it will not yield any benefit, there is no need to go into such things. Then climate resilience. Agricultural risk concepts are applied to prepare for extreme weather events. So decision on irrigation system, drought-resistant crops, flood defense are informed by analyzing environmental risks. Then we'll look at the market strategies. Farmer and the agro-business uses risk management tools like future contracts, crop insurance to mitigate market risks associated with price fluctuation and income variability. Pest and disease control. Assessing the risks of outbreak inform the adoption of preventive measures like pest resistant seed or regular application of pesticides. Land management system is also have risks associated with soil erosion, water scarcity, over exploitation of resources influence decision on sustainable land use practices. How it influences decision making. How does this influence decision making? Let's quickly look at how this influences decision making. So risk-based thinking drives the adoption of strategies to minimize uncertainty. This has to do with precautionary measures, adoption of new technologies, insurance policy, and so on, or planning, insurance and financial planning. So when you talk about precautionary measures, farmers often prefer conservative approach to avoid significant losses, such as diversifying their crops or splitting resources across different ventures. So adoption of technologies, innovative tools like precision farming and weather forecasting system help manage risks by providing actionable insights. Then insurance and financial planning. These mechanizations protects farmers from unforeseen losses, enable them to plan with greater confidence. Then, in conclusion, understanding agricultural risks is crucial for addressing inherent uncertainty of the sector. By identifying different types of risks and their interaction with external factors, stakeholders can implement strategies that enhance productivity, economic stability, and environmental sustainability. Such efforts are essential for securing resilient agricultural system and achieving long-term food security for growing populations. I would like you to read Unit 2 against our next class. See you again next week. Thank you very much for listening. Bye for now.